Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, A Spark of Sam. My channel is about all of these things that bring a spark into my life, and today we are going to be talking about my March TBR. I have a huge March TBR. I feel like this is one of my largest physical TBRs that I actually have a lot of confidence in myself. I don't think I'll get everything done, but I have so much motivation to get a lot of this read, and I can't wait to show you which books I have planned to read this month. First and foremost, the book that I am definitely going to read no matter what is Of Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. This is my book club that I co-host with my friend April, 'Tis So Sweet, for our Tales of Starlight book club. It's a bi-monthly fantasy book club, and I have been wanting to read this book for over a year now. I don't know, it's been sitting on my shelf for a while, and when we picked it, and I've heard so many good reviews from my friends, I'm so hyped to read it. I am going to wait till later in the month so that when we discuss it on April 1st, I will have this fresh in my mind. But I am very excited. It's a dark romantasy about a girl with special powers who is imprisoned, and in order to escape, she has to go into a dark forest, but there's problems that go along with it. There's one person standing in her way. And honestly, all you have to tell me is dark romantasy, and then I'm normally sold. But there's talks of castles and haunted forests and all of that alone, magical powers, unknown powers. Yep, I'm so excited. The second book of this comes out in April, so what better way than to read this now and get ready for the second book. Now, if you watched my February TBR, you might recognize this book. I did not get to it in February, but I have to get it done before March 7th, so it'll be the first book I read this month. It's Powerless by Lauren Roberts, not to be confused with Powerless by Elsie Silvers. Different books, both called Powerless, both very popular. This is a YA fantasy, and I've heard it compared to The Hunger Games, and I'm reading it for my friend's book club. One of the reasons I'm really excited for this is there is different class levels, and one of the main characters is considered an ordinary, and she is fighting to be a part of the elite, but they don't know that she's ordinary. And we love an underdog story here, so I am hoping this book lives up to the hype. I know so many of my friends that have read it and loved it. Can't wait to discuss it for Kendall at Bookphoria's book club. The next three books are all audiobooks that I have on hold at Libby that I'm hoping to tandem read with, and they've all been available, and I've pushed the holds back, but I'm going to get them done this month. And the first one is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I've heard a lot about this trilogy. I've heard a lot about a lot of these fantasy books. I've heard this one is a little bit more, you either love it or you don't. I think that I'll really enjoy it. It's really hard for me to not love a good fantasy book. I mean, it might not be my all-time favorite, but I'm excited to get into this series, especially because it's an enemies to lovers. I heard it's pretty dark in the beginning. I mean, just by reading the synopsis, like her parents are murdered and she's captured by this high king, Fae. And then, we just see where life takes us. But this is one that I will get done because tandem reading is a lot easier for me, and the fact that I have been waiting on Libby for a long time to finally get the audio, I'm excited to read this. Also coming available on my Libby is Local Women Missing. This is a book that is a thriller. I've heard a little bit about, more last year than I have this year. Some people really like it. I don't like to read too many thrillers back to back because they do get to be a little redundant sometimes. I think this one will be interesting because it's about a bunch of people that went missing, including this daughter of a girl, and the daughter, so many years later after the case goes cold, returns, and everyone is like, where the heck did you go? What happened? And it's supposed to be pretty shocking on everything that unfolds. Excited. So the next book is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I'm bad at pronouncing names. If you watch many of my TBR videos, then you'll know I often buy books without reading the synopsis. I got this from Book of the Month, so when they have their synopsis, it's very short, like one sentence. And this one sounded really interesting. It's a historical fiction, which I love historical fiction. And this one sounded like it's very complex. Also, I now heard that they're making it, or it's been made into, it's already out, a Netflix series, a limited Netflix series. But I've heard amazing things about this and that it's really impactful. I have found that they're not always happy. Historically, things don't end happily. However, I love like the detail, the hints of history, and a glimpse into that world back in whatever setting it may be. I also find them to be pretty impactful. They're pretty moving to me. So I'm really happy that I'm getting the audiobook for this one finally, and then I can read it and listen to it at the same time, and then I can go binge the Netflix show. It is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. Literally every single one of my friends that has read this has loved it. Literally every single one. I got it right away when my friend Kendall from Bookphoria said that she loved it, and then my friend April from Tis So Sweet said she loved it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need to read this book. Also, I want to say I picked it up the one day at Barnes & Noble and put it back down. Picked it up and put it down. This was before any of my friends had read it, but I just gravitated to it. It sounded really quirky and different, and a different spin on your typical romantasy book. Plus the sprayed edges. That instantly drew me in. Just reading the back of it, it kind of reminds me of Butcher and Blackbird, which I just read. However, this one doesn't sound nearly as graphic, but I heard it's just like fun and quirky and weird and not your typical love story. So, cannot wait to read this one. Now, I already have a ton of fantasy lined up in this TBR, so I wanted something that I could quickly read and easily read. So I'm going to read On the Way to the Wedding by Julia Quinn. This is a part of the Bridgerton series. This is the 7th book. I have read the first 6. I absolutely love the Bridgerton books. I know they're not for everybody. I love the show. And it's kind of weird because this is Gregory's story. I don't know, with the other siblings, they're all older, and in the beginning of the Bridgerton series, you know, Gregory and Hyacinth are still younger. I mean, they're like preteen-ish. So finally now they are old enough and it is their turn. So this is Gregory's story. With the 3rd Bridgerton season coming out on Netflix in May, I figured March would be a great time to read this one. Then hopefully April I can read the last one of the series. And then in May I can read Queen Charlotte. I haven't read Queen Charlotte, but I watched the season already. But I'm curious to see how the book differs. And now that it's been a year since I've seen Queen Charlotte, I'm going to read that. But that's for other months. I'm excited to just break up some of the amount of fantasy with a good old classic romance book from the Regency era. It is time. I have decided I am not going to move on with reading Crescent City, even though I really want to, and I've read the first one. I'm not going to continue on. I am going to start Throne of Glass. I cannot wait for this series. I am scared and nervous that it's not going to live up to the hype, but my friends have not steered me wrong yet. So I'm officially going to start reading Throne of Glass this month. I know I have a huge TBR already. This is going to happen. I will make this book happen. And I mean, we started off pretty small, right? We're not quite to the 800-page books yet. I just want to read this whole series by the end of the year. I like to take my time. I don't want to rush through them at all, but I want to finish all of Sarah J. Maas. I want to finish Throne of Glass and the rest of the Crescent City series by the end of this year. So I gotta start now, and I'm not mad about it. I really don't think I'll get to this book, but if I don't read it now, I'll probably read it next month as a palate cleanser, because I love a good rom-com to get me through all of like the dense world building that fantasy has. I also like it to break up thrillers so they're not so redundant. So I want to read The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez. I really enjoy her writing, and this is some of her older backlist books. This is a part of a series. I'm not exactly sure how the series is, like how it's formulated. I just know that you're supposed to start with The Friend Zone before you move on to some other books. And a little bit about it says, it's a beautiful tale of learning to accept the love you deserve, a zippy, instantly recognizable voice, and fresh, funny characters. Yeah, Abby Jimenez, I absolutely love how she writes her characters and the depths that she goes into character building and relationship building. I really enjoy her writing, so I'm excited to get into The Friend Zone. This book just came out in February. It's called Heartless Hunter. You can get it through Book of the Month, but I decided to pre-order it through Amazon because I didn't want the Book of the Month logo, because I'm obsessed with this cover. This is absolutely gorgeous. So the Heartless Hunter is the first of the Crimson Moth book series. It says her deadliest enemy or her greatest love. The cover is stunning. When I read it on Book of the Month synopsis, it sounded intriguing. You know, we got a romantasy again. I love romantasy. I think that's like my all-time favorite ever, times a million. So I would love to get to this book this month, especially because it's so new, and I don't always get in on books in the beginning of a series, so this is definitely one that I'm going to try to get in with now. I think one of the biggest things that sold me on reading this book is the other authors that are recommending this. There's a few of them back here, but there's Rachel Gillig that says dark, romantic, and brimming with forbidden magic. And then there's Rebecca Ross, that's a story that unfolds like a spell and one that is destined to capture your hearts, by Rebecca Ross. I mean, you have Rachel Gillig, who did One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I haven't read Two Twisted Crowns yet, but I loved One Dark Window. And Rebecca Ross, Divine Rivals and A River Enchanted and Dreams Lie Beneath. I love her. So if she has anything to say about a book, I'm gonna read it. So I want to jump on this and get a taste of it before I get too many outside inputs on what others think. So I'm excited to have this book on my shelf. That's all I have for my TBR this month. Wish me the best of luck. Also, if you're still here, if you could be sure to give my video a thumbs up and leave a comment on if any of these are also on your TBR. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.